Hey, good morning. Welcome to a Monday morning edition of Morning Scone. This is going to be, I would assume, the episode that most of you have been most anticipating after LSU baseball was swept by South Carolina this weekend. So, judging by Twitter, which obviously is not the be-all, end-all gauge of all things, there's a lot of really upset people, and I get it, because the season for LSU baseball, a week after what you felt was the high point and maybe finding a direction with the sweep over Tennessee, you are at the crossroads of the season now. There's no two ways about it. This weekend was dreadful. It was a dreadful weekend. You got pounded in the first two games, and even in spite of that, you went into Sunday, because Arkansas had been swept at Mississippi State, you went into Sunday with a win. You'd be first overall in the West, and you'd be tied for second overall in the entire SEC. You had literally everything that you wanted still very much within your grasp. And you led 6-0. They started Nick Bush, which Paul Maneri said, Bush would have been his guy, but he wished he could clone him because he wants that lefty out of the bullpen, but also would have been his number 3 starter. And you get 5 innings out of Nick Bush, and he was awesome. Only allowed 3 hits, threw up 5 zeros, struck out 7. Nick Bush was awesome. And we're going to talk about the decision to pull Bush when they did here in just a second, but you got exactly what you needed out of Nick Bush. I mean, he couldn't have been better. And you led by 6. And the most reliable arms in your bullpen gave away the lead. And the offense went into a shell after it got its 6-0 lead and felt like it didn't need to do anything anymore and went back to an awful approach, which we'll talk about also. And when South Carolina hit the homer off of Taylor Peterson to tie it, you knew it was over. Like at that point, momentum in sports is a funny thing. You just knew it was done. But so LSU gets swept at South Carolina. Let's look at the game in a vacuum, and then we'll look big picture, okay? The thing that everyone has asked about on social media has been the decision to pull Bush or put in Fontenot or Beck when they did. Now, if you go back and look at my Twitter during the game, I tweeted in the 4th inning when Bush allowed the leadoff man in the 4th on. I tweeted to Luke Johnson. I said, "Hey, what's the long outing of the season for Bush?" And it had been 2 innings. And it was about 45 pitches. Was the most he had thrown all season. You were getting into the 70 pitch range, okay? And then what I tweeted at that point was, Bush has been awesome, but there's no sense in stretching him because you've got Fontenot, Beck, Bain all lined up ready to go with a 6-run lead. There's no reason to overextend Nick Bush when he hasn't gone this far all year. Remember, and I would always say I'd rather take a guy out a batter too soon than a batter too late. Remember what happened last year in the College World Series final because Todd Peterson was hurt or unavailable. They started Russell Reynolds in that first game of the championship series. And Reynolds went out and threw up a couple of zeros. Maneri got greedy, sent Reynolds back out there, and he got tagged. And Maneri said afterwards he got greedy. Should have pulled him out when he had got what he wanted out of him. And Bush got you through 5. And to pull Bush at that point at 89 pitches in 5 innings was absolutely the right call. And you could say, well, he was still going so good, and he was. But something to consider is always, with a pitcher, if you extend them, it's not that he couldn't have gone out and still been effective for another inning. It's, okay, what's the long-term effect? Normally at the beginning of a season, even your weekend starters, they'll throw them out there for like 75 pitches, and then it'll go up to 90, and then maybe week 3 or 4, then they just let them go, hey man, however many you can get out there and go give us. It's a process of building up. If you're Nick Bush and you haven't thrown more than 2 innings all season, to ask him to go get into that 100, 110 pitch range, which he would have done if he had gone out for the 6th, I mean, that's a mighty ask. And then you don't know, okay, well, if we do this, is he going to have arm fatigue and then he's not available next week? Or could you potentially do damage? Like, is a guy that's had Tommy John already. Point is, like, you've got to be careful with guys when you extend them. So Maneri pulling Bush after 5 was, some of you don't want to hear this, it was 1,000,000% the right decision, because you had your best, most reliable relievers lined up, needing to get you 9 outs, 3 innings, 9 outs, and you had Fontenot, and you had Beck, and you had Bain, and you could go, you could have gone straight through there. Excuse me, you needed 12 outs. You could have gone straight through to get those 4 innings with those guys, and that should have been plenty with a 6-run lead, and the opportunity still to bat and tack on more. And Fontenot gave you 2/3 of an inning, and he gave up 3 runs. He walked a guy. Matt Beck came in and walked 3 guys, and it was their undoing. And Beck has been your best strike thrower out of the bullpen. He has. That's just a fact. Matt Beck has been your best strike. That's been his MO. He's not the hardest thrower, but he throws strikes. And he didn't on Sunday. And it cost you. And then Peterson comes in, Taylor Peterson comes in after Beck put another guy on, and he left a ball up around a guy's neck that he tomahawked over the wall. That was the game in a nutshell. You had a lead. Bush gave you exactly what you needed. Maneri made the right call, going to his best relievers when he did. They just didn't hold it. And you got swept. So that really sucks. That's yesterday. The other thing from yesterday, offensively, and then we'll talk about big picture and then what's ahead. Offensively, this team, and this is just my opinion as a guy who hasn't coached but watches a ton of baseball, obviously. I talked to a lot of guys who obviously have both coached and played a lot of baseball. The offense approach for this team right now, and Maneri's always said they're going to be aggressive. And that's fine, but if it's not working, do something different. And you went in against a team that walked, a pitching staff that walked more batters than any in the SEC. And yesterday LSU coaxed 3 walks on the day. One of them was really the biggest point of the game before Daniel Cabrera's home run. And it came from Hal Hughes. Hal Hughes, in the 3rd, worked a 9-pitch walk. He just kept battling, fouling off pitches, drove up the pitch count, and he worked a 9-pitch walk. He got on, Brant Broussard gets on, and Cabrera blasts a 3-run homer. When you put pressure on a pitcher and you don't allow them to get into a groove, they're more likely to make mistakes. Look what happened to Matt Beck. Even good pitchers can make mistakes when the pressure's ratcheted up. If they're in a rhythm just cruising with the bases empty, they never have to make a pressure pitch. I don't understand this weekend why the approach wasn't, hey, just get up there and go have 8, 9 pitch at bats, foul pitches off. And if you see something you like, go for it. But how many times you watch LSU? Just pay attention to this when they play this week. How many times LSU will swing at the first pitch of an at-bat? And, if you're up there fastball hunting and he grooves you one on the first pitch and you want to hack at it, go. But the problem with that approach is, if you're a lineup full of doubles and homers hitters, like big power bats, and someone's going to groove you one on the first pitch and you feel like you can hit it over the wall, do it. Like what Bo Jordan did in Game 1 or Game 2 of the Tennessee series where he homered on the first pitch of the at-bat of the game. Okay, if you've got the power to do that. But LSU's lineup isn't loaded with power guys. They're just not. That's not their MO. They're small, speedy guys, singles hitters. So get on base, steal a base, hit and run, put some action, pressure a defense. It just amazes me that that's not the approach on this team right now, because it feels like it should be. Because you don't have a lineup full of doubles and homers hitters. If you did, completely different approach. And it showed in that game. Hal Hughes is the one that got that whole thing going when LSU got its lead for the Cabrera homer. So big picture, LSU gets swept. Amazingly, you look and they're a game out of first in the West. And Ole Miss and Arkansas are at 10-8. A&M, Auburn, and LSU all tied at 9-9. State's at 8-10, and then Alabama's down at 5-13. So, by the way, A&M this week lost 2 of 3 to lowly Tennessee, which LSU just swept. The SEC baseball this year reminds me a lot of the SEC basketball season, where Auburn was running away with the league for much of the year, and then it was like this clump of 8 or 9 teams that were all like just what and what within a game of each other the whole year. The SEC baseball season feels a lot like that, where you've got Florida, which is just destroying everybody at 14-4, and then you've got Georgia, Vandy, Ole Miss, Arkansas, all at 10-8, and then you've got South Carolina, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, all at 9-9, and then you've got Missouri, Kentucky, and Mississippi State, all at 8-10. I mean, it's crazy how like everybody's within two. It's Florida, and then everybody's within 2 games of each other, and then you've got like Tennessee and Alabama way down at the bottom. So for LSU, everything's still there for you, oddly enough. I mean, I can't say everything because I think a for them to earn a national seed at this point, it would take something extraordinary, like what happened in 2008 when they won 23 straight. Like they'd have to sweep 2 of their final 3 series and win the other 2 out of 3. That would put LSU at 19 conference wins. If they did that, okay. But here's what I think: if you want to say, okay, can they host a regional? Sure. Is it likely? No. But here's how it could happen. Go take 2 on the road at Ole Miss this weekend. Take 2 at home against Arkansas, which just lost, got swept by State, so it feels at least realistic. Sweep Bama, which is terrible. Take 2 out of 3 at Auburn. That puts you at 18-10. If you go 18-10 and you make a run into the weekend in Hoover, then you should be a regional host site. I don't think you're going to be a national seed, but you should be a regional host site. So that's your roadmap. But it starts with doing something you haven't done all year, which is go win ball games on the road. And you got to do it this week against Ole Miss, which has a bona fide stud in Ryan Rollison on Friday night. So it's a huge ask for LSU. But this feels like it's your season this weekend. If you go take 2 out of 3 from Ole Miss, your goals are in play. If you go lose this series or get swept, then like you're really struggling to earn an at-large. I mean, it is that much of a chasm, because finishing the season with Auburn and Alabama was a winnable series. So there's opportunity there, but you have to win 2 out of 3 this weekend. If you don't, then it's just hold your breath and see if they can even get in that large bid. I will talk much more on AFR. If you have not, please subscribe to the Matt Moscona YouTube page. If you don't see the red button below, click on my name. It'll bring you to the page, and then hit the red button. I appreciate it. Y'all have a great day. We'll talk much more on AFR. Be well.